Whenever I see really amazing demos like this on the web, I really want to pick up a graphics language. If you're like me, you might research things like shaders, you might research things like WebGL, or you might have looked into WebGPU, which is the future of graphics programming on the web. And inevitably, when you do that, you might find out that you've bitten off more than you can chew. However, today I want to show you TypeGPU. What is TypeGPU? Well, TypeGPU, as the heading suggests, is a TypeScript library that enhances the WebGPU API, allowing resource management in a type-safe and declarative way. Now, what does that mean in English? Well, TypeGPU gives you awesome primitives for working with WebGPU in a way that's going to make you not go absolutely crazy. Because going back to the demo that I just showed you, this entire demo is able to be accomplished using TypeGPU and less than 150 lines of very readable code. This is rendered into a canvas, but you can even have interactive controls that work with actual HTML elements. Now, this is a true web project. This is running in the browser using WebGPU, just doing it through the TypeGPU library. Another neat thing about this is that it can even run on React Native. So if you're building native apps using React Native, you can also use the same library. That said, it's not just tied to React. In fact, if we look at this code, it's really just HTML and JavaScript. And like I mentioned, this JavaScript code is really pretty minimal. And the HTML is basically just giving us a canvas that we can render into. When you dive into this, this gives you a lot of math utilities and it gives you a lot of type-safe utilities for working with WebGPU in a way that, as someone who's not super up on this stuff, I can actually read this and feel like I could get in here and manipulate this. And if you want to be further convinced, you really just have to go through some of these demos. In fact, this one is really neat where you're doing an ASCII filter, and you could actually control some of these parameters right in here based on my live webcam. And once again, the code is supremely readable. So you can go through this and really get into it. And again, until we get to the control side of this thing, this is 268 lines of JavaScript, lines of TypeScript, I should say. And the docs are also really great. For a library I just heard of today, I was shocked to see one, not just like how thorough the documentation is, but how well explained it all is, where it gives its reasoning for doing things. It warns you about things. It says, don't do this, do this. It also integrates with a number of things. Like I mentioned, React Native. It also integrates with WebGPU. If you already have WebGPU code, you can pick which type GPU APIs and primitives you actually want to use and work them into your already existing WebGPU code. Not that I have any WebGPU code, but I think I will soon because this stuff is getting increasingly interesting. It also works well with WGPU matrix, and in general seems to have a vibe of working well with other notable and reputable projects. There's also this TypeGPU /noise package that you can use with your WebGPU code or your TypeGPU code that offers utilities for noise. In fact, if we come into one of the examples where there is a basic noise here, you can see that this example again is hardly any lines of code to get this demo working. It's 117 lines of code before we get to the controls, and again, very readable, where we're mostly just working with this noise package. And again, with these controls, you can play around with these things. You can see how these variables actually modify these. And these types of examples are really key to understanding how this kind of stuff works. Now, beyond just doing shaders or graphics, it's anything that your WebGPU code could be used for, whether that is graphics or even AI. There's all kinds of cool stuff in this library. And really, if you're a TypeScript developer or someone who's looking to work with WebGPU in a nicer way, in my opinion, check out TypeGPU. Now, one last thing. Support. Can you use WebGPU and therefore type GPU in your browser? Well, it is fully supported in Chrome and has been since 2023. Now, it is supported in Safari, however, it's only supported in the latest version of macOS. So you have to have Tahoe for this to work without being behind a flag. Now, if you're shipping something like React Native, that obviously doesn't matter, but for your web users, not everybody is going to be able to use whatever it is you're making with this, as it is only available to 79% of browsers. Firefox is predictably not working either, as it is only behind a flag for macOS, but it is enabled by default on Windows. Now, mobile browsers, you'll have a much better time here, except for Opera Mini, whoever uses that. So it seems like the big holdouts are still that people are upgrading to Tahoe, which is a rough upgrade, if I may say so, and Firefox on the Mac, which is not a huge chunk of users, but it's certainly something to think about when you are shipping your web GPU experiences. Have you taken the dive into learning about shaders or WebGPU or WebGL or any of this graphics programming stuff? I want to hear about what you're building, why you're building it, what libraries you're choosing to use. There is a lot of cool stuff in this space happening right now, and TypeGPU really surprised me with its usability for the kind of intense stuff that you're able to do. So give it a try. It's available at docs.swmansion.com/TypeGPU. I'll link it up in the video description. Let me know what you want to see on future What is Wednesday videos. This is a series that I did on Level Up tutorials for many years. I'm bringing it back on my own channel here. So let me know what you want to see on What is Wednesday.